Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste, hello everyone. Welcome again to the NPTEL course, Role of Craft and Technology in Interior Architecture. And extending our discussions on continuity and revival, today we are going to focus on the resource building and the dissemination perspective. We'll see some examples and we'll also have a look towards the end at a list of references which is going to be useful for all of us. So we have been talking about continuity and revival, and we have discussed within this different aspects like research and documentation, and then towards the end we are also going to talk about the dissemination part and the resource building part. So that's our focus for today. And let's see some examples while we discuss this perspective. So we are going to see the Jaipur portfolio, Jean Lepotre French Album of Interior Decoration and Ornament, and we will also see an online library, the Building Technology Heritage Library, where we'll see some amazing resources which have been built up online and which could be referred for further information and learning and dissemination. And of course we'll see some work by DICRC at CEPT University, and then we'll see some resource building and dissemination perspective through the works done at IIT Roorkee. So beginning with the Jaipur portfolio. So Jaipur portfolio is very famous, it's very popular, and it is a very pioneering effort where we see a sort of a resource building inventory, where we see a catalog of architectural details, and it is in several parts and it covers a lot of details. So here, like what is seen on the slide, is this Jaipur portfolio of architectural details cover, and here this part focuses on the wall and surface decoration. So related to this part, there are a lot of drawings and details on scale which have been documented and preserved and disseminated through this very rich inventory, and which has taken a lot of effort to get compiled and to get collected. So the thing is that it's very important that such interesting traditional forms, art and craft forms, interior architecture styles, they are documented, they are preserved, and there are some resources like this which are built up where people could have a look at them, and generations like ours today can have a look at these details, draw inspirations, learn from them and continue them. So what we documented yesterday is a good reference for us today, and what we are documenting now is also going to be a very good resource for the future, because there are a lot of architectural styles and art and craft forms which are languishing, or probably which one would see in the museums in the future to come, which is not a very good sign. But then if we begin now documenting them and creating this repository, it's going to be a very good rich resource. So here what we see is an amazing piece of resource building and dissemination, and we see the sort of intricate details, and there is also plan, and there is also everything on scale, and here one could read all the details, the motifs and the elaborate zoom in details, what are the motifs and what is the geometry that is seen over here and what is the scale. So this is a very rich resource, and this is very handy for us to refer to and learn from, and then continue these details later. And that's why we are saying continuity and revival, tradition and continuity. What exists, we learn from that, and then we take it further in future with contemporary expressions and times to come, and the details get modified. But at least there is a base resource which one could, fall back on and learn from and refer to. So if we see Jaipur portfolio, some more pictures, there are some amazing details which have been documented and preserved, and they are there for dissemination, and then we refer to them and learn from. So like another plate is this one, and again we see a lot of details of surface decoration and work that were seen on the walls of different buildings like Fatehpur Sikri, some buildings in Ahmedabad, some other traditional interior architecture built forms which were documented at that time, with all the intricate details that are seen, with all the very close details with the proper scale, which could help us understand the drawing, the depth, the motifs, the entire scale of the design that is done, and on which surface it is done, and what is the entire aesthetic appeal to it, if a user is seeing. So all these details we get to know through these drawings which have been documented and which are now getting disseminated through this building, through this resource which was built by some pioneering efforts. Further, we see some more details over here, some details over here. So all these plates, they are there as resources and inventories, and there is lots to learn from and refer to. Again over here, we see these architectural details, and we see over here the surface and the detailing part. Over here, over here. So all these details exist, and this is now a resource, like a resource hub actually, which has a lot of details, and there are so many interesting and important libraries from the different reputed institutes of the world, where this portfolio is kept in the library for people to refer, for researchers to go through. So it's a very significant contribution. It has a lot of details, and it's a very good resource for us to fall back upon. And continuing this, like we have a lot of building trade catalogs, we have a lot of architectural portfolios, but there is still a paucity of these, and especially in the Indian context. So few individuals and organizations are already working towards it, and it would be like very good if all of us in our capacities could contribute towards this resource building creation. So some more details, like very intricate details, here, and then further intricate details. Again here we see another plate. So this whole part is dedicated to wall decoration and surface decoration, and related to that there are different elements which have been documented and which have been put forth in front of us through drawings. Again, if we see over here, it's like a very exquisite detail, very intricately carved, and all the details over here, which period, where it belongs to, and the plate number and everything is over here. So all that effort is worth it, and it has been preserved. Again, we see over here this detail. So this is a very important part of the resource building and dissemination perspective, and especially coming from an institute like IIT Roorkee, where we focus a lot on the research part. It's very important for us to focus on these resource building aspects and consider the perspective of dissemination, and work with the students and professionals and researchers to come up with different mediums to disseminate the work that we document and explore and research upon. Again, continuing with the Jaipur portfolio, again we see a lot of details and documentation which is done, and this resource hub is being created by adding details. These are some more details on scale, and with all the details. This is different, this motif is different, here the detailing is different, and then over here. Similarly, we see this detail over here in another plate of the Jaipur portfolio. Some more details, very beautiful, intricate details of the wall decoration and the surface decoration, all the craftsmanship that we see here, because we have been talking about craft and technology in interior architecture. And here we are seeing this space making element wall, and we see all these intricate details which are done at this surface. And this is a sheer craftsmanship and how it was done by hands. So also capturing that quality of craftsmanship and trying to disseminate this interrelationship between craft, interior architecture, and focusing on the building craft part. Jaipur portfolio is a very apt example, because of which I have put these drawings and plates over here. It helps us understand this interrelationship that we have been trying to explore throughout this course. And we talk about craft and architecture, and then we try to see how they are, very interrelated, very innately at different levels. Some more details here, and the border details, and the details in this space. So all that is seen here in this portfolio. Some more plates over here, more details. So Jaipur portfolio is available in different libraries, also online, and there are different parts to it. And if you are particularly interested, I would suggest to see the details and also try to understand through drawings the making of these elements and the ornamentation part. So now let's see the album of interior decoration and ornament, and this is also a sort of resource building perspective where the artist has tried to create a catalog of different elements that contribute to interior decoration and the ornamentation, and then we see it's as a sort of a visual repository, and there are so many references that we can look at and learn from. So it's not given in too much detail, but I have just tried to put 2 slides to just explain how resource building helps us understand to have at our disposal various resources and to draw inspiration from them and learn from them, particularly about that era, when they were compiled, but also because of our special interest in knowing the past and carrying it forward. So here we see these lot of details and the resource building part. So many details, whether it's done on a surface or it's an object or a sculpture. And we also see the interiors over here. So we see these wall surfaces, and we see a space over here with human figures, and we see some floral motifs. We also see some more surface decoration. So there are a lot of these details which have been catalogued and preserved, and a resource has been created. Further, if we see here again this interior space, we see some lighting details. We also see again here we see some interior space. We see some wall surface and plaster details. So many details over here we see. And the Victoria and Albert Museum and the Smithsonian Museum, and there are a lot of other significant organizations and institutes and museums where this catalog is found, because it's such a significant work, and it is again a very rich resource hub where we can get details about different material culture, the details of the interiors, details of the interior architecture part, surface decoration, space making elements, building crafts, and this interrelationship between craft and interior architecture. So these resources exist, and we must also contribute from our side, looking in our region, doing whatever we can. Now seeing the Building Technology Heritage Library, this is an online library and I found it very interesting. It has amazing resources, lot of books, and which are catalogs and visual repositories and inventories, and they give lot of information on different materials and making and craftsmanship, different kinds and typologies of built forms, residences, bungalows, and so on. So it's again a very rich resource hub. So there are some books and catalogs which talk specifically about color, then modern home plans, also something, on wiring, and then about the timber, genuine mahogany, and how one identifies it, thumb rules about it. So all these different kinds of resources, repairs, then second homes for leisure, builders hardware. So there are so many different subjects that have been covered. And again, there is one catalog over here which talks about the kitchen furniture specifically, the architectural and building catalog, and electric fans. So there are so many different objects and space making elements and the build forms that have been covered and discussed through these catalogs, and there is such rich information out there. Just because this resource was built up by efforts of a lot of individuals and organizations, and now we have that as a repository for our reference. So something very important. So here we see other plans and more details, fittings, fabrications, and details like that. Some more details over here. Also something on the tools. We are talking about the crafts and the craftspersons and the craftsmanship, and tools come into picture often, and we talk about the role of tools and material knowledge and technique. So all those things have been covered. Then again here some more catalogs also on lighting, sorry. So all these kinds of catalogs are there. Resource building part has been covered by some pioneering efforts. Some more information, book of beautiful homes, and so many other things, also on paints. So here we see the illumination catalog. So when we study interior design, we also talk about the illumination, the lux levels, the physics of light, and the chemistry of colors and things like that. And so many details are already there. So, and there's this catalog of building materials and so many other things about plumbing and heating. And more details over here, architecture of the night. So that's a specific series. We see some more details which talks about the artistic houses. So all those kinds of catalogs and building resources. Street lighting specifically. So again, kitchens, lighting equipments, different kinds of house typologies, and different kinds of tools and wiring and heating and plumbing, electrical devices. All these cataloging, it does help once the resource is built up and it's there out in the open for people to refer to and follow and learn from. Some more details, again the material culture, more details, modern homes, furniture, some standards for the roof. So all these details are there. Some more we see over here. Again some interesting ones, building materials, low prices, easy payments. We see some more details about plumbing. So again, this entire repository, it's a very significant source, and I have mentioned the source over here in the references also, and here as well, and you could have a look. There are very interesting books, and we are talking about the crafts and the craftsmen, and they have some books on the craftsmanship as well. So again, continuing with this catalog, we see here a sort of compilation of some other different kinds of catalogs and resources that could be found on this portal. So here again we see many of these. All of these are a part of this online resource building hub, and there are so many different interesting resources to refer to. Again, talking about craft itself, it has several documents which focus on the craft here as well, the jewelry and the other things. So this repository is there, and you could always look into the details, because right now I'm just mentioning very visually and very like overview what all resources are available. Now let's see the DICRC, CEPT University, their works, and what is their perspective on resource building and dissemination. So we have already seen a lot of their work in the previous modules also, and we touched a little bit upon the research building, resource building part under the research and documentation. So they do create this rich repository, and they have a lot of plates and portfolios where all the detailed drawings and images are compiled and composed, and they are there on their online portal to refer to. And specifically talking about the resource building and dissemination part, again they follow a very interesting and simple model. So research and documentation, we saw that. We discussed about the innovation and development part. Then there was a discussion on education and training, and subsequently we also talked about the collaboration. So all of these together, they contribute to the resource building aspect, and then they are disseminated either through the print media or digital media or through oral communication. So this is a simple and effective model, and this is what they keep following. And again, I have talked about their online portal several times, and there is a rich, huge repository. There are drawings, there are portfolios, there are images, there are field trip details, and there's also a list of projects that they work upon. So if you really need to go into the details, this is also a very interesting portal, specifically in the context of India, where so much effort has been made, to have India's own building craft laboratory, and there are so many resources that have been painstakingly, compiled together with a lot of team coordination by different individuals and teams working on it. So they have these interesting projects, and then there are a lot of other microsites which plug into this, and then there is this huge generation of data which could be referred to. And again, this building craft lab that I was mentioning, it's a very collaborative platform, and it is specifically to explore the world of craft and built environment. So whenever we talk about craft, interior architecture, building crafts, so this is one specific online resource which is open and anybody could access, and it's a brilliant repository, if you need information related to these subjects that we are talking about. So there is a mapping part, then there is a cataloging part. So all the catalogs that we were seeing in the international context, they have tried to do something like that for Indian scenario, and it's very significant. So all these elements in buildings have been documented, and then there is a creation of directory which has the information on people and enterprises, and then there is a documentation part, and then this entire resource hub is open to all and it is accessible. That's the most important part, which is the takeaway from here. And again, they have these user groups, who all who all will use the data. So craftspeople, academicians, designers, architects, and then there is this long list, and then there is this huge chunk of data which they administer, which they manage, and building craft lab is at the center of the helms of the affair, and then there is a lot of information that goes in there. And there is also this interesting aspect that one could also be a contributor and data producer. So if I work here at IIT Roorkee related to building craft, and then if I want to contribute the data there and just enrich this already existing laboratory, I could do that. So this way all of us just network, join hands and contribute by sharing the data, which is again there in open for others to also have a look at and learn from, share, also add more details to it if they have done some more work. So that's how everybody grows and the data gets disseminated. And again, this is from the website, and we have the data like this. So if one is interested, you could just have a look in the detail. Then let's just talk about IIT Roorkee, some work done over here, and what do we do for disseminating the work that is done, and how do we try to create this resource hub and repository. So here this is Project Dharohar, and we have seen some pictures in previous slides. So again, this is a sort of convergence of a lot of people that happened through this national seminar. There was also a launch of this monograph which has significant information about the building crafts of Almora specifically, and then it is disseminated through newspapers, a lot of people get to know about such events, then they contact us, and then there are collaborations and people join in, they work together. And we have a lot of experts coming in who also help, and then craft persons, of course, through whom we learn. We also create the directory, which is not as elaborate as organizations like the ICRC, but we have just begun it. So we collate that information, and then there are talks and lectures, and then dissemination also through such exhibitions and craft bazaars. So this is one way of resource building and dissemination and connecting to people and building a network. And again, so some more work during that workshop and how the outreach was established, the monograph, the different plates and portfolios that were created, and the exhibition was put up, and also they were put up in for certain publications and certain books. So that kind of work. So here we see the interior architecture and building crafts in Uttarakhand. This is another monograph which happened for another event. This is also one monograph which talks about the art and architecture of Udaipur. And again, the workshops that we saw in one of the previous modules, there, plates and digital panels and portfolios which are made and exhibited and put up on website. That's how they are disseminated. So here we see the cultural industries in Uttarakhand. This is the cover of a monograph. This is another event that happened. So all these resource building activities and dissemination, it happens here. And there are a lot of collaborations and platforms and a lot of people coming in. Again, this exhibition, some very interesting rare craft objects, coming in from Munsiari, which are not available so easily, in the market, and also a lot of craft persons are not doing them anymore. So that collection we had put in the Department of Architecture. It was very fascinating, and this was another Ministry of Culture workshop where this huge discussion happened. And yeah, so some publications, this was for ICOMOS, and then this is another conference, South Asian Vernacular Architecture, where the work from Uttarakhand was presented. And again, some books where the chapter contribution has happened, and again we are talking about the building craft of Uttarakhand. So this is how we are trying to disseminate. This is a plate from the Encyclopedia of Vernacular Architecture, and this has been covered in the encyclopedia, where we are talking about the building craft and interior architecture of Uttarakhand. And some more plates and details, again the traditional pit loom and the space making elements and the building crafts in Uttarakhand. Those kinds of details, documenting them, building a resource, putting them up for publications, exhibiting them for dissemination, putting them on websites, also exhibiting them at different platforms. So some of this work was also exhibited at CEPT, because in the capacity of an alumni, I had presented some of the work there. So that's how it gets disseminated. So again, some more plates and work. These are some more details, different houses, different timber residences which were documented, their details. And there are plates which were created, which were exhibited and put up at different platforms. Again, we see some more work, the timber craft and the apron art over here. Again, the facade and the interior architecture, the craft and the motifs. Some more documentation over here. Again, the one that I was talking, City Palace Udaipur and artwork and architecture, the monograph. These are the pages from the monograph. And some other ways to build the resource and disseminate. So I also conducted this Gyan course, which again talked about this interrelationship between interior architecture, craft and design. It was a very successful course, and again it was a way of networking, disseminating and creating a resource. The work that happened during this was exhibited and a lot of prototypes were made. Again, some more projects and their details, and how we approach a project from a resource building and dissemination perspective, of course followed by the research and documentation part, the process to be followed, and what are the focal points of that project. And again, more details, visual repositories, resource building and dissemination. Again, there is also a way to disseminate through videos and documentaries, and one of the small documentaries in the making. I don't have it right now. So, and some work which is done in the studio with the students, their contribution, how do they document and create this data. And again, these were the documentaries which were made by students of 4th year, and they have really done some very nice work talking about the material culture, craft and interior architecture styles of Uttarakhand, and also creating very interesting material maps. Again, the different materials, where do they come from, and sustainability aspects and things like that. So a lot of work happens inside the studio, also through projects, and we try to really build up a rich repository and take care of the dissemination as far as possible. So next time we are going to talk about the summary of all these previous 3-4 modules that we have seen on continuity and revival, and let's see some references now. So specifically to this module, I have put up the Jaipur portfolio, the album of interior decoration and ornament that we saw, the building technology heritage library, the resource building and dissemination part covered by the DICRC, and then we have a lot of other common references that we have been seeing, back and forth. Some more over here, what you see on the slide. Here again, this is very significant. Material and technology, inventory of selected materials and technologies for building construction. This is also a very rich repository and a resource to fall back upon. More references here. Thank you.